Unity Stoakes. I'm the co-founder and president at StartUp Health. And today, first of all, I just want to welcome you to 2 days of programming where we're going to be interviewing and spending time with part of our army of health transformers. If you have a chance, come over to this wing over here and meet these amazing entrepreneurs and innovators that are really inspiring the world with on-the-ground innovation at the very earliest stages of health. So I just want to start by kind of setting the stage here. And if all of you got a copy of our new StartUp Health magazine, there's a letter that I wrote with my co-founder at the beginning that kind of talks a little bit about this. But I think we're at an incredible moment right now that to me is very reminiscent of the mid-90s. I think we're at a new moment, really an exponential era of progress, specifically in healthcare. And what we're starting to see, I think, is a new species of AI coming to the world at the same time that there's an extraordinary wave of other types of innovation colliding at the same time, whether it's genomics, sensors, hardware, biologics, battery design. All of this is kind of colliding at the same time. But this innovation alone is not really where the magic is. The magic is really the people that are creating and building with this innovation. The folks like the four health transformers on the stage. So over the next 2 hours and also tomorrow, we're going to speak with dozens of these health transformers and really try to understand what's going on at the earliest stages of the innovation cycle, the really exciting time frame where they're really building and experimenting and doing extraordinary things with technology, but with this imaginative, creative ideas. So welcome, let's jump right in. Cristian, do you want to kick us off from Perceiv AI?
It's a pleasure to be here. Cristian Dansereau, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Perceiv AI. Perceiv is a precision medicine company. We forecast disease evolution and starting with Alzheimer's disease. So we are really providing the near-term evolution of these patients, the next 2 years forecast, so that we can enable physicians to do timelier diagnosis, to take these individuals at the beginning of their symptoms when they start to have mild cognitive impairment and get them to a diagnostic and potentially to a treatment now that we have new treatment available. And that also can unlock the other big bottleneck in Alzheimer's disease, which is clinical trials. We have huge failure rates in clinical trials, and selecting the right individuals that will benefit from treatment is critical, and providing prognostic information to untangle that uncertainty about the evolution of patient is key to us and what we are providing.
Excellent. So unlocking clinical trials. Margaret?
Hi, I'm Margaret Melville, and at Lasa Health, we're a patient engagement platform with embedded clinical decision support. Our vision is really to enable shared decision making, turning patients into partners in their healthcare journey. And we're doing that first in the space of chronic pelvic pain. This impacts 1 in 4 women and is an extremely expensive condition to manage. Patients lose about 11 hours per week in productivity cost. So there's a huge problem here. I experienced it firsthand and visited 25 doctors before I was finally diagnosed with endometriosis and celiac disease. So we're really passionate about using AI to improve the care for these patients and expanding into other areas of women's health as well.
Thank you. And another Cristian here.
Cristian Pascual. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mediktor. And our aim is to improve access to healthcare. Typically, people do the wrong thing when they feel symptoms. They go to Google, and we try to solve this problem in a most scalable and reliable way, providing a chatbot that can assess symptoms and providing a guidance on what to do next, and a list of possible disease you could be suffering. So this is what we do, and glad to be here today.
And this is also in many languages, correct?
Yeah, now we are in 30 countries and available in 17 languages. So our NLP is huge. It has 45,000 synonyms of symptoms, only in one language, and then replicated to all the others.
Okay. And Nicole Cook here, who congratulations won the Health Startup Award earlier today. So we're really proud and congrats again. So tell us about what you're doing.
Thank you. I'm Nicole Cook. I'm the founder and CEO of Alvee, and our mission is to advance health equity and improve health outcomes for all. We help healthcare organizations to target the populations that need help the most with AI-driven insights and autonomous care navigation. And our goal is to really rehumanize healthcare with technology.
All right, so let's dig into the meat here. You all are doing a diverse range of innovation across the healthcare landscape, even all over the world in some cases. How are you each using AI? And let's dig into what that means in the context of what you're all doing. In your business with your solution. Maybe give specific context and what are you doing to integrate AI and how has that changed over the past year? So Cristian, start with you and we'll just go down the line.
Certainly. So we do forecasting, so predicting what's going to come next to these patients. The way we integrate AI is while combining the multimodal information that is collected about these patients. It can be a structural MRI, so imaging, biomarkers, cognitive tests to make sense of all of this information together. And obviously, it's our AI engine that is incorporating all of that to make these forecast or prediction of the near-term evolution of these patients.
And did you start out leveraging AI technology into it, or has it evolved over time?
Yeah, no. This is core to the value that we are bringing. This is kind of the soul and the first things that we've developed. I did my PhD on these teams. So coming out of the PhD, I've continued to apply these. And now we've built a whole platform around these predictive models to serve the AI prediction, basically.
Okay. Margaret, this very important area, women's health.
Yes.
You're integrating AI in. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so there's two main places where we use AI. So first is in the clinical decision support. So with chronic pelvic pain, this can be caused by a number of urinary, gynecological, GI conditions. So it can be really confusing for a doctor to know which condition it is and what the next step should be. So we use machine learning to screen and provide recommendations for these clinicians. And then the other piece we use it for, we actually received some grant funding from the National Science Foundation to build a chatbot for flare-up support for these patients because of how frequently they go to the emergency room because of the chronic pelvic pain. So that's another project we're just launching. And to your question about did we start that way, we wrote this proposal for the National Science Foundation almost a year ago. I think we submitted it the week before ChatGPT went live and everything hyped up. So our original proposal was building our own LLM and building our own data set. So now, because of how technology is advanced, we're able to still complete the same goal, but use these new tools and new advancements to do it in a much more effective way.
So has it evolved considerably since you started that proposal to where you are today?
Significantly, especially in the generative AI space, that landscape's fundamentally changed in the past 12 months.
I want to keep coming back to that theme because what I'm seeing, and I'm in Berkeley and Hayes Valley, and it's like almost every 3 or 4 days, it seems like it's different than the week before. So I'm curious how that kind of impacts what you're all doing. Cristian, you had a chatbot for many, many years. So, how has this changed your business? How are you integrating new technologies, AI, into what you've been doing for quite some time now?
Yeah. Well, we started using AI and being in digital health before anybody even named digital health or talk about AI. So what we are obsessed with is with the outcomes of our technology, not with the technology itself. So we combine natural language processing, machine learning techniques, and all kinds of AI strategies to provide the best outcome when you are providing this conversation with patients. So what we are obsessed with is how we combine all technologies that we can to have this better outcome, this better advice. And pretty much we have keep on refining our technology over the years, and not shifted a lot, just refining. And I feel that it's like a non-ending story to keep on refining and sophisticating, and also introducing new languages and covering new territories.
How fast is it evolving for you in just a practical context? Is it on an annual basis, a monthly basis, a weekly basis? Like, how does it integrate in terms of how it's actually changing your technology solution that people are using?
So I don't know. It's been not a steady pace. Sometimes we did a big breakthrough because we discovered a new way of doing better things. But now I see that our tool works very well. We keep on refining, but there's not a big leap ahead right now. I think that our technology is ahead of the market. I feel now that we are discharged somehow from a buying process for things unrelated with our technology, like complying with high trust or things like we are so obsessed on our technology that I think that we are ahead on the market right now.
It's interesting. So it's not the technology that's the challenge. It's more on the business side of it seems to be a common theme.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, please.
So I think something else we see is when the technology evolves so fast, it changes the way you have to build. And so we're building ours in a really modular way because we don't know who's going to win in the space of LLMs and what the future is going to look like. And so the more we can build our technology in a way that's flexible to adopt for multiple different scenarios of what it will look like in 1 year, that's how we can set ourselves up to keep up with the pace of innovation.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, a year ago when we were sitting here, ChatGPT hadn't launched 3.5 out to the public and my mom wasn't using it. So we're in a totally new landscape just 12 months later. And I would say almost weekly, we're seeing the same thing. Nicole, you're covering a very particular, you mentioned health equity. I know you do a lot with social determinants of health. How are you leveraging AI to change the game here?
Yeah, so we've been an AI company since day one. And how we use it, we're using it in a variety of different applications from ML to NLP and Gen AI. And we proactively identify social needs like food insecurity, transportation problems, and we embed it directly into the workflow. So we're, with SDOH historically not being discreetly captured in a medical record, we're helping
social determinants of health.
Social determinants of health, yes.
Lots of good acronyms here.
Yes. So with that, we're helping to actually pull that into the medical record where it hasn't existed previously, but making it more actionable with that generative AI.
So in a practical sense, how does this manifest? Maybe walk through an example or two with just a real world situation.
Yeah, so let's say a healthcare organization wants to target all of their diabetic patients who have food insecurity. So they can leverage the Alvee platform to identify who's at risk for those specific barriers to care. And then from there, Alvee will recommend the actionable next steps and recommendations on an individual level of how do we actually remove these barriers to care and then get them connected to the help that they need.
Interesting. One of the big questions that I think a lot about is the concept of, will there be very niche focused AI that you guys are all doing very specific things, or more of a platform approach to leveraging AI? And, there's some AI overlord that everybody uses for all things. Like, what are your thoughts on that? In a sense, you guys are all doing very important, specific things, but anybody have a thesis here?
I can start. I think more critical the prediction is, or the insight that you're bringing, and it's going to be important to have specialization and specialty AI and special expertise also around that in order to deliver something of critical importance. When it's maybe at the beginning of the pipeline, you can probably afford to have something that is a bit more generic. But as soon as you get into niche specialty, I think it's very important that you have also the backing of experts that are going to design these things appropriately and deploy them in the right way, you need way more expertise. You cannot completely generalize. You can go into other markets with these things and leverage that expertise, but it needs to be, I think specialized AI will still remain for a very long time. This is the most actionable solution that we have right now, and it's going to preserve for several years still.
So, for example, just AI focus on clinical trials and just perfecting, optimizing that.
Well, not even that, like probably in a specific indication. Clinical trial in neurology or in Alzheimer's disease is quite different than in oncology. From just the biomarker and the information that you ingest, the kind of problems that are, there is common problems, but you don't address them exactly the same way. So it's important that you have these fine-grained understanding.
I think most of these AI applications are force multipliers for whatever physician or person is using the tool. And so it makes sense that these tools would reflect the structure of our current healthcare system. So generalists in primary care will be using more generalist tools, screening for a broad range of conditions, but really specialized doctors will be using really specialized tools. And it also has to do with patient complexity, right? A really complex patient care pathway, you need to have a very carefully designed tool so that it encompasses both the clinician's pathway and the patient's pathway in a way that can lead to measurable clinical outcomes.
I think the other thing to keep in mind too is software as a medical device, because I mean, especially in healthcare, we have to be really careful about the AI that we develop and that we're not doing any harm. So especially when you think about, these more specific sort of use cases, sometimes you actually have to be, very niche about it, and you can't be very broad. And I think that, one of the things that we're going to see more evolving is just the regulatory changes and policy changes around AI and how we test it and how it gets approved. And so I do think that there's, a place where both live, like the broad applications, but, also the more focused applications and, following, what FDA says and other regulatory bodies will be key.
No, I think that both have a playground that is different. I think LLMs have impact hard with ChatGPT, right? And look like they can solve everything. But there's a huge limitations in this technology to comply with everything you need to comply to be confident in a healthcare world. So I see more a layer of general AI that can manage the conversation, the main conversation with the patient. And then when a specific niche solution needs to be launched, it will automatically launch a more niche conversation that is focused in that specific problem. Because if not, this general tool will not be good enough to comply with everything that needs to be complied for every specific niche problem in healthcare. At least with the technology that I see today, I think it will be a combination.
I would actually add on that you can even use more general tools for specific application. Let's say the LLMs to de-identify free text or to extract specific information from notes of clinician. These are good examples that are less risky, but that have high value, where you use an actual general model, but for very niche application that are more well framed and that will also pan better with regulatory bodies.
What do you all think that industry needs to understand today? I mean, are your thoughts that there's like one track of innovation happening over on this side and another track happening over on another side? Is everyone figuring this out at the same time? I remember in the mid 90s, I would go in to big, Fortune 500s and, talk about websites, and they're like, what's a website? And it was almost like being in an alternate universe. And they'd be talking about interactive CD-ROMs, and I'd be talking about, no, there's this thing, e-commerce and websites. And it was like two different worlds. Where do you think realistically we are today? And what do you wish that the ecosystem was kind of leaning into so that we could make more progress together? Anybody have thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
Okay, please.
So first, I think is, making sure that AI is not a black box, making sure that there's explainability so people understand and have more trust in the models that are being used, especially in healthcare where there's a lot of hesitancy and distrust, for new technologies in general. That's pretty important. And I think it's also a balance where we're using it and which use cases is it most appropriate in. Sometimes AI might not be the right thing and, you might need to have that human approach. And so, sort of like to wrap all that together, I also think that technology can be used to rehumanize healthcare, which during my time at Epic, I saw a lot of the time the nurses and doctors being really frustrated because they're spending all their time on the computer and they're not actually interacting with their patient. If you go to the doctor today, they're going to be spending most of their time typing on their computer. And so I think we have a really big opportunity to actually leverage technology and leverage AI and automation to actually rehumanize healthcare again.
So the physician or clinician can spend time actually with the patient as opposed to the paperwork.
Exactly. And operate at the top of their license, not have to be doing all of these administrative tasks. And so I think that, there also just needs to be a level of openness on all angles, from everyone in the industry and try not to fear it as much, but understand that there's a place for it. And, it can really help to, exceptionally improve patient and provider interactions.
I think that we are in an extremely unique moment in time because we have a growing health demand with more chronic conditions of an aging population. At the same time, we have less professionals available and decreasing. So the pressure in the system all over the world, it's huge and needs solutions that are not doing things as usual. It needs to evolve to be more scalable and inclusive. And technology is there. It's here. You can see it. 10 years ago, I could not imagine so many digital health solutions. And it's happening. So I really think that we are in a very unique moment in time when we will see a lot of changes in how healthcare is delivered.
Where do you all see things in, say, 3 years or 3 to 5 years? Not necessarily predicting the timing, but trying to get a gauge on how fast you all believe things are evolving, moving, progressing. And specifically what I'd like to understand is in terms of impacting people's lives, patients, clinicians who are just trying to get back to being clinicians, these types of things. Like, are we still quite some time off because of the integrations, the actual sales process that you talked about? Where do you how quickly is this moving?
I think you made a good point, actually. Integration will be critical. So there is a lot of very cool and good application of AI, but we still need to have our eyes on the ball that these systems that we try to get some information from and data are very antiquated. They are not necessarily ready to deliver on the data and properly in an anonymized way, in a compliant way. This will need also to be at the same speed as the evolution of new solution in AI. I think that's going to be critical if we want to deliver in 3 years or 5 years these kind of solutions.
I think what we see right now is it's a kind of a sandbox, right? Everybody's experimenting with different things. There's a lot of interest from consumers. Patients are getting smarter. Doctors are getting smarter about how to use these tools. So in 3 years, I think we're really going to see the regulatory space change. And, whether that's the FDA or hospital systems or insurance, setting a higher standard of bar for clinical evidence. And in 3 years, we should have studies coming out about the accuracy of these models, about the rates of hallucinations. All of this is super important for adoption. So we're in this early stage, but it's going to get more sophisticated. And I think your point about explainability is really critical. It seems like that's the key piece that the FDA is looking to push for, is to have these models be explainable.
And I think too, in 3 to 5 years, if you're not adopting some sort of an AI strategy, you're going to fall behind. So your competitors are going to be catching up to you. They're going to be more efficient, to the point of staffing shortages. There's going to be, a workforce shortage of astronomical amount. So unless you're doing things to automate and leverage AI to actually improve workflows, you're going to go out of business.
No, I think I always say there are two technologies that have the broader impact in healthcare are telemedicine and AI, because they can impact almost in every process in healthcare. So it will bring more time for the physicians to look at the eyes of the patients instead of substituting them. And this is something that is still not in everybody's mind, but I think that finally they will understand.
It's an interesting point, because I think during the COVID era, the behavior changed around using telehealth, for example. Like the adoption just changed overnight, as we know, right? And with ChatGPT launching a year ago now, consumers are now touching and using AI in a way they were not 13 months ago, right? So a lot of this is not just the technology. Maury, I see you here. I've been doing AI for, we were talking many, many decades, right? So a lot of this technology has been around, obviously. It's getting better, faster, smarter. But a lot of this seems to be around the other structural changes from the business models, the integrations, the type of collaborations you're all doing, but also the behavior change of how we're all touching and using these within the workflows, either within healthcare or even at home now. So I think that's one of the big transformations. We got a couple minutes left here. What are you all most excited about? And maybe within the context of what you're all doing, like what does this exciting new moment more broadly do in terms of changing what your mission is, what you're doing that's going to ultimately, hopefully help people? Nicole, you want to start?
Yeah, I think what I'm most excited about is impact at scale. So, for so long, health equity and SDOH initiatives have been sort of the nice to have, or, something that we really want to do and should do, but may not necessarily have the business case to do it. That's shifting with the regulatory changes, of course. But I think that the great thing is that we don't have to really pick and choose what types of initiatives we want to do. There will be ways that we can actually make it accessible to everyone. And, with all of that, it really opens up the door to have customized healthcare. And, really that's the biggest form of health equity.
No, I'm really encouraged for having a technology that is ready to deliver value to many people in the world. I can say today that you will look back one day and say, hey, you remember when I could decide as a patient feeling bad what to do next? That is crazy. And we'll look back and say, oh, yeah, that is solved. Now we have tools that help us, guide us on this healthcare delivery. So, I think that it's really, we are really glad to have this opportunity to change how healthcare is delivered.
At Lasa Health, we're really excited about the way AI can enable shared decision making and really empowering the patients to understand their options and their choices in healthcare, and then empower the clinicians with detailed recommendations that are personalized for that patient based on their own desires and interests with their treatment plans. And that's a level of personalization that we weren't able to do before all this innovation.
For us, it's really the new drugs coming on the market in Alzheimer's disease really open a slew of other possibilities to unlock these big bottlenecks to bring these new therapies to the ends of patients. So to be able to predict and provide to the patient and the physician what's going to come next to these patients and empower them to act sooner is really what motivates us every day.
Well, I just want to thank all of you really for what you're doing. I think being a health transformer, being an entrepreneur and innovator in healthcare it's a journey. It's incredibly difficult, especially at the early stage. So we need more people like you in the world. It's so inspiring to see all the ecosystem here. And it's really, I have a good feeling knowing where we're going with technology because of the people and people like you. So thank you all. And over the next 2 days, meet many more health transformers. Please come over to the Startup Health Pavilion, say hi, meet these awesome people, and see how you might be able to support their mission. Thank you all very much. Thank you.